Oh my God, I'm on the 83rd floor. There's no one here yet, and the floor is completely engulfed. We're on the floor, and we can't breathe.
Okay.
And it's very, very, very hot. I'm gonna die.
Ma'am, say your prayers. And we're gonna think positive because you gotta help each other get off the floor.
I'm
Now,
gonna die.
stay calm, stay calm, stay calm, stay
Please,
calm.
God.
Tuesday morning, September 11th, started out a lot like every other Tuesday would have been. I get ready to go out the door, stop at the end of the driveway. I happen to look. I usually open the roof vent. It was nice weather, so I'd normally open the roof vent. That morning, I actually opened the whole sunroof, and I was looking out, and it was just an amazingly beautiful sky. The moon was probably brighter than I had seen it ever. There were a tremendous number of stars. And just as I was getting ready to go, I thought I saw a shooting star, which is in itself an unusual day.
In 2001, I was a senior at BU. I was finishing up my final year there. I was in the School for the Arts and ready to graduate as an actor. I'd get my BFA. And why I was up that morning, why I even witnessed September 11th is a mystery, because I didn't even have class that day until 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So, which is odd why a college student would all of a sudden wake up at 8:45 in the morning, but I did. I woke up with the idea that I was going to go and ask one of my teachers to see if I could TA for this following semester and help out with some of the freshmen and whatnot.
I remember Jeff leaving that morning. He used to take the train really early in the morning to New York to his job, and he always in the morning said goodbye.
Got in my office about 7:15. And on Tuesdays, I ran an 8:45 meeting for the 3 managers that work for me. And we were sitting 8:45, getting ready to go, a little chit-chat. And just as we were about to start, there was a very loud boom, a low, loud boom. And I kind of spun my chair around because my back had been to the windows. And there was just what appeared to be tons of debris coming down the window, outside the windows.
Just about the time I was ready to leave the gym, they broke in with a special report that said a building had been hit, one of the World Trade Center buildings had been hit by a plane. And everyone, heard the same thing, and we were all thinking, okay, small plane, no one's thinking big plane.
Disturbing live shot there. That is the World Trade Center, and we have unconfirmed reports this morning that a plane has crashed into one of the towers of the World Trade Center.
I woke up, I walked into the living room, and I turned on the TV, and it was kind of like what a lot of people refer to as I turned on the TV, and it was on every channel, and there was the one tower on fire, and there was the other one, and I was like, is this a movie? Like, did I turn on, is this like Independence Day right now? Like, what did I just turn on right now? And it was that moment of, okay, this isn't a movie now. Oh my God.
There's certain times when it doesn't feel right, and I think it wasn't right. So I think the impetus was to make sure everybody started out, and my expectation was a few hours later we'd probably be back, not realizing the scope. We had about 60-something people on the floor that worked for me. Get them into the hallway, which was kind of a common practice. It was pretty much routine fire drill to get everybody into the hallways and prepare for next steps. At that point, that's when I called Ruth on my cell phone, my wife, to let her know that I was fine. I realized that it was the other tower at that point, and knowing she would be worried, I tried the house. She wasn't there. I left a message there. I left a message on the cell phone. And then I proceeded to walk the floor, make sure everybody was off. We'd come to one of the areas on the side of the building, and a couple other people I worked with at that point. And looking out the window, you could see the gaping hole in the other tower with the charred side and the flames coming out, and people hanging onto the side of the building. And while we were there, saw a man who obviously had jumped, flying through the air. And at that point, I said to Frank and a couple of the others, we really don't need to be here for this. It's time to go. And so at that point, thinking I don't need to see any more, this is when we started headed back down the stairs. maybe we got one floor down. And on the landing was a lady who had stopped, I guess to catch her breath. So I just asked her if she was okay. She said yes. We started to turn to go down, and we just looked back and I said, okay, we'll help you down, we're going down. So we started taking her downstairs. We had to stop every couple of steps, every couple of landings. She was a larger woman who was having a tough time with her feet going down. And at one point we just decided it would be easier to kind of put her arms under and lift her and carry her down. A little after 9, I guess, when the announcement came on in our building that it was Tower 1 and our building was secure, and anybody wanted to go back to their offices could, or you could leave the building. And I, at that point, turned to Frank and I said, I don't know what else is going on, but we're going down. So Frank, and her name was Lynn, and we were chit-chatting a little bit going down, trying to keep her occupied. I guess Frank was also a little nervous. We were probably below 44, about halfway down. The second plane hit the building, and we were on one of the half stairways down. And at that point, I was holding onto one rail and holding her, and Frank had the other side. And the stairway went side to side, up and down. And it was just a really low, bassy boom. And as I glanced up, there were these huge fire doors in those stairways. And you could just see white powder, kind of smoke, coming through the stairway, through the fire door. And that must have been just the explosion and just the pressure and blowing through the fire door.
Seeing the building explode in that specific spot like that at the time, me watching it on TV, I was like, oh my God, I just saw my dad die. Like on television, live, in front of my eyes, and I didn't know what to do. And so I got back on the phone, I called my mom again.
That particular morning, I forgot my cell phone in my car. So I ran out to my car to get my cell phone, and there was a message, and the message was from my husband, and he said, I'm just calling to let you know everything's fine, don't worry. And as I clicked off the message, the phone rang, and it was my son. And I said to him, Zachary, everything's fine, don't worry. He said, Mom, you don't understand. He said, the building was hit. And I said, what are you talking about? I said, I just said to you, Dad just called, everything's fine. And he said to me, you don't understand, Mom. The second building was hit. And I ran inside, back into the gym, so that I could see what happened on television. And as I got there, they were replaying the plane coming in, and where that plane hit the building, visually and architecturally, they built a break into the building. So I knew where Jeff's office was in relationship to that break, and as I watched this plane come in, it came right in by the break. And I collapsed on the floor. I was so, I didn't know what to think. I really didn't. I really thought he was gone.
When the plane hit, one of them, Glenn, had gone back up after the message and gone back up to the 69th floor to get some of his belongings. I think the lower wing on the second plane was around 72 or 73. But he told me when it hit, he was by our offices, and he could just see some of the framework around his office starting to crack. And he said as he hit the stairwell, he could just see the fireball coming down the hallway headed toward my office.
I got home, and my phone was ringing, and people were calling to find out what I knew. And of course, I knew nothing. A neighbor came over to stay with me for a little while, and we had the TV on, and it was, you could see it was chaos there.
I don't really know what to do at this point. It's kind of like I'm in a daze, like wandering around my apartment. I don't really know what to do. It's 9 o'clock in the morning. I don't have classes till 2. And so I just kind of get myself together, and I remember I went into the bathroom. I was like, do I shower? No, I don't shower. I get out of there, and I just start walking down the street, and it's like I'm just walking in a dream right now. And I walk down the street, and I distinctly remember walking down the street, and I seen these construction guys sitting on like a stoop down there, and I say to them, do you know what just happened? And they're like, yeah, we know. Like not as like kind of like not to the level that I was at, and I was like, okay, and I just kept walking, and I just kept walking on. I just walked to school.
And shortly after that, we started to see, well, there's a couple of people coming down. I remember now one guy, they must have been doing work on one of the floors upstairs. He was coming down, excuse me, trying to get through because there was blood on the side of his head. And then at that point, there were also, I guess, the security people and fire people coming up, and those are really, amazing people walking up with oxygen tanks and things like that, trying to get upstairs while the easy part was going out.
The School for the Arts was on the 4th floor. I go in and I go up, and thankfully that there were already people there, and that's when I have some of my close friends there, and I say to them, because I hadn't spoken to anyone else yet, and I say to them, oh my God, I think I saw my dad die. People would tell me that, do you remember what you did then? And I say to them, what are you talking about? And what they said was that I actually came in and I threw a trash can or something like that, but it was just erased from my memory at that, like this, whatever the stress was, it was just completely gone. And I honestly, I just don't remember doing anything like that, throwing a trash can, being hysterical or anything like that. I just remember coming in, seeing my friends, them bringing me to the office and sitting down.
And I guess we got down to about the bottom levels. There were some security people there, and Elaine needed some help, so we made sure we handed her off. And there were a lot of security, fire, police, just really kind of driving you out of the building. There was a lot of debris. And, at that point, I guess we were starting to hit the side streets. I probably walked a block or two, and coming from the back was a police car kind of hitting the siren along the way. I don't know if that's what it was that started, but there was a minor stampede at that point. And I just decided I wasn't running. I went another block or two. I lost Frank in there. After a few minutes, I had taken a break trying to gather it all in. I tried reaching Ruth, but cell phones obviously were jammed and not working. The cell towers, a lot of communications for Lower Manhattan was all in the World Trade Center complex or on the roof antennas. So there's a payphone about a block away, and I finally got over that and waited online with a lot of other people trying to do the same thing, contact everybody. Finally couldn't get through to Ruth. Got through to my brother who had an 800 number on Long Island, and oddly enough, I got through to him, and I asked him to keep calling my wife until he got through and let her know I was okay. Just after I made that call, you could feel the ground just kind of rumbling, and I thought that they must have blown up a subway tunnel because the ground was shaking. That must have been Tower 1, well, Tower 2, I guess it was the first one to come down. So I guess it was Tower 2 that came down. And I had walked to the east. The winds that they were blowing southeast. And when I looked down toward the south after that, you could just see just a wall of smoke. Is kind of surreal, like a bad movie. Like a wall of smoke, gray smoke, just going up between the buildings and looking down the streets, just rolling through and as high as you could see.
The teachers wheeled out a TV for the students to watch. They put it right next to the office there. It was a long hallway, and then people started to gather, and people started to come together and watch what was going on. And I remember going out there. I was sitting there. I had people knew what my situation was, and they knew what the stakes were for me. I didn't know what was going on as far as how he was, if he was okay. So I just kind of was sitting there watching, and then the first building came down. And at first, I don't know if that's one of those tricks of the mind of denial or whatnot, but what I saw at first was I just thought, oh, just the top part came down. It just like it came down in half because I couldn't really watch. Something started to happen. I couldn't watch it, and so I said to one of my teachers, I was like, oh, well, just half of it came down. And she says to me, no, the whole thing came down.
And then the South Tower, which is a tower that Jeff worked in, collapsed. And I still hadn't heard from Jeff yet. And I remember thinking, you know, how could this nightmare have happened? How could we have gone from a beautiful day to what is, it's a nightmare. And I don't know if he's alive or not. All I know is the building has collapsed and I don't know where he is. About 45 minutes later, my brother-in-law called me and he said to me, I had just heard from Jeff, he's fine.
I just remember finally being able to get through, and I think it was my mom that was on the phone, and she said, he's okay. He's okay. There was a whole bunch of people in the lobby too. I think people knew, again, people knew what was going on with me. I was one of the only people that had a parent there. And I said, you know, he's okay, he's okay. And one of my teachers echoed, you know, he's okay. And everyone, you know, everyone was relieved, and people were very, obviously people were very happy for me.
Coming off the train Wednesday morning, again, it was just a beautiful day, but seeing these people coming off the train with husbands and wives, girlfriends, boyfriends, parents, whatever, you know, running up to each other, big embrace. I think you start to realize how bad it was. The people that had it the toughest were those people like the ones I saw coming up to the train, like my wife and my kids, because she hates to want to say it, but I mean, I knew where I was all the time. I was fine, but they had no way of knowing.
When Jeff came home after September 11th, it was actually September 12th that morning that he came home, I was so relieved to see him. Of course, there was a lot of hugging and a lot of tears and a lot of, just a lot of relief that he was home. But I think I realized again, once again, how fragile life is. In a moment, somebody could be gone. And that I was very grateful that he was home, that he had made it.
Seeing each one of them after that, the first time after, I don't even know how you describe it. It was just, it's not relief, it's not amazement. You feel the love, you're just really happy.
It was really great. It was just really great to see him. I mean, obviously, you know, it's a, you know, obviously it's a huge relief. What was most annoying though was that we were all emotional and he wasn't emotional at all. He was just like, oh yeah, I'm fine, everything's good, everything's fine, I'm fine. I didn't have any dust on me, not a scratch on me. And meanwhile, you know, here we are, you know, we're all upset and emotional about it. But yeah, it was really great.
When you say, how do you feel? It's bitter and sweet. Sweet because Jeff was one of those who made it out, and bitter because there were wives whose husbands weren't coming home to them the next day or that day or any other day. And so I felt sadness still for them, but I felt really joyful for me. I was very lucky that he was home.
There are many different heroes that are on 9/11, and they all revolve around the people that were there. And those are the people who are the police that were there, the firemen that were there, but that there are also the people that were inside the building who are helping other people get out.
He never knew what happened to Elaine. Did she make it? Didn't she make it? Did they clear her away from the building or not? And about 6 weeks later, they were now in their new location across the river in New Jersey at Harborside, and he got a call from the front desk that a woman was asking for him. I guess in their conversations with her on the way down, they said to her, they gave her their first names and that they worked for Morgan Stanley. And she tracked them down and she found them, and she came to the office to say thank you to them because she was so grateful that they saved her life. But not only that they saved her life, there was a purpose to saving her life, because her sister also worked at that building and she didn't make it out. And her sister had just adopted a little baby. And so now this baby was parentless. And Elaine, and she was a single parent, and Elaine and her husband were now going to raise this baby because her sister had perished.
I would definitely think of my dad as a hero, even though most people might not know about him or you won't read his name in the newspaper, you won't see his name on the news, but I definitely think he's a hero.
I'm not sure that we pay enough attention to the factors that allowed that event, 9/11, to happen. And we too easily go back to our normal life because we have a great life in this country. And we need to remember that things and steps have to be taken to find ways to prevent things like that from happening. The cost in human impact on lives, in every other way, it's just too great to just let it happen again.
We need to work towards peace, and we need to work towards an understanding of each other, but we can't forget those awful times. And maybe in remembering them, maybe they'll serve as the impetus for us to try to work towards becoming more peaceful with each other and understanding our cultures and understanding our differences. But for me, I just don't want to ever forget that day.
Remember that feeling in the days after of feeling as one people, as feeling together, as helping each other, and kind words to one another, saying thank you, and doing just little common courtesy sort of things that you generally don't get in the hustle and bustle of everyday life, and that we kind of forget and go off on our own separate ways and that sort of thing.
If there's one thing people should remember about 9/11, I think it's that a lot of innocent lives were lost. And when I say it didn't have to happen, it didn't have to happen.
These feelings keep coming back to me now. I know they're gonna hurt oh so much. When did this all get so complicated? I need to fight these demons off my path. So help me to be strong and help me carry on. So send those angels right to my door, but don't you let them knock your head off. Cause I just wanna be there in the morning, and I just wanna be there when you wake. So give me one more chance in this game now. Give me one more shot, I pray. Begging you, I need to stay. I remember when the days just roll by. Now I count them one breath at a time. I never thought that this could be my ending. I hope my journey hasn't been in vain. So help me to be strong and help me carry on. So send those angels right to my door.